Hey theater fans, I'm Dakota.
And I'm Jeff.
And we're the Theater Snobs.
I'm recording. Are you
I
recording?
am here.
Look at us, recording at the same time, together, forever. Back in business, Jeff and Dakota, your local Theater Snobs.
Yes, and the tables have turned today, folks. Jeff has more technical issues
I
today
was the one with
than
tech
me.
problems today.
You
and
are
Dakota
welcome.
will never let me live this down.
I'm writing it down in the book, okay?
She's written it down in the document that we keep
Yes.
our notes. Okay, Dakota, we've got a few things to talk about. Theater news is a little bit slower right now because the Tonys are coming and a million shows are opening. I feel like we've had 12 shows open up in April and March, and there's more to come. More to come. Because it's award season.
Woo!
Aren't we excited?
Yes, very, actually. I am more excited about this season than last, I have to say.
Oh, really? Interesting. Tell me more.
I think it's a little bit more competitive.
I agree. I think this season is more competitive, and I think it has more good shows, too. I think there was very little to be excited about last season, and this season there's a lot to be excited about. So, the Tony Awards will air Sunday, June 8th at 8 p.m. with none other than Elphaba, Cynthia Erivo, hosting.
Woo!
And I don't know, I'm excited to see Cynthia.
Well, we're kind of used to some staples with Tony hosts. Like, someone will do it and then really be amazing, and then they'll ask them to come back for several years. So we kind of get used to that.
Mm-hmm.
I think most famously, probably Neil Patrick Harris, and having some like crazy big opening number that kind of combines all of the shows into one parody spoof thing and gets us excited. I'm not sure if I see Cynthia Erivo hosting in that vein.
Yeah, I think she's fun, but I just feel like she's more formal than past hosts.
Yeah. More dignified, maybe. Yes.
So it'll be interesting to see how they set the tone with her.
Precisely.
For sure. But anyways, the Tony Awards they're coming. The Tony Awards cut off. Get this. It's April 27th, okay? So shows opening after April 27th are considered for next season. And Dakota, listen to this week of April.
Mm-hmm.
On April 21st, Floyd Collins opens. On April 22nd, the Stranger Things play opens. On April 24th, Pirates, the Penzance musical opens. On April 26th, Just in Time opens. Just in time. On April 27th, Dead Outlaw and Real Women Have Curves open. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 musicals all opening in the 6 days up until the deadline. And it's absolutely crazy. It's so interesting to me why musicals try so hard to be included in this year's Tonys. Because yes, a Tony nomination is going to give you a chance, to sort of increase your ticket sales and get things moving sort of maybe quicker for some lesser known musicals. Yeah. But it also can be a dagger to the heart if you don't get any Tony nominations. And I just feel like it makes more sense to me to open in like May and have a year to build up until the Tonys. But I guess I don't share that belief with many Broadway producers.
I think what I'm sort of starting to see and compare this to is like, yes, it's weird to come in right before the Tonys start, but like you said, it can be gasoline onto a production, right?
Yeah.
And then they'll have a lot of sales in the summer when tourism is really high. But it's kind of like when I watch Shark Tank and people are giving their pitches, like just the exposure on a TV show. So maybe even just the exposure at the Tonys with some of the performances might draw people in. But also, as you said, if something wins absolutely nothing, they often will announce some closing dates right after the Tonys. So we'll have a lot more info for you right after that.
Right. And it's so many musicals I feel like aren't given a chance because of that, right? Like we saw
Right.
Lampica last year, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't even given a chance because oh, no Tony nominations, slow ticket sales, bye. Like and I think that there was other things at play there, but it's so limiting to sort of operate in this way. I don't know. I feel like even something opening in February has more of a chance than these last minute like hurrahs, I guess.
Well, you know what? I think what you just said, when we saw Lempicka, the two female stars of it were nominated, but they didn't win. So I think what just being nominated isn't really much for the producers.
Yeah, but didn't it close before the Tonys even?
I think they announced before the Tonys, yeah. But I think that people are being a lot more, since things are costing them a lot more money, maybe investors are stricter cutoffs in their mind of like when they're, if they don't project that their money is at all coming back, they're just like, let's end this hurt now.
Yeah, I don't
It's
know.
just so much of a
Yeah, it
business.
closed 3 weeks before the Tonys even happened. So like producers weren't even giving it a chance.
I think if we're close to Tony Award season and you're not doing great, like you're saying, I think you should wait. That's not me. I don't have any investments in these productions, but I think things could turn around.
Well, Dakota, it sounds like you need to take the Ken Davenport seminar on becoming a Broadway investor. I did it last week. We'll talk about it later.
Oh, let's go. All right.
Yeah. So we're obviously going to talk more about the Tonys as we get there, but just a quick basically the any show that opens, as I mentioned before or on April 27th, is considered eligible, and then the Tony nominations this year are going to be announced May 1st. The nominations for the Tony Awards are determined by the Tony Award Nominating Committee, which consists of 48 working theater professionals who see all the productions in the Broadway season, and then they meet to decide which shows and performances are nominated for the awards. But, what's also interesting to me is that means many of these shows are being watched by this nominating committee during previews. So if something happens or if
Right.
something isn't quite right, you know what I mean? They're maybe not able to show off. Like Dead Outlaw and Real Women Have Curves, those Tony Award nominating committee members are seeing those shows during previews. Because in order to have the nominations for May 1st, they have to. So I don't know if it's like a downside for a show to be seen during previews.
That's what I was going to ask you, is if it's allowed to, it sounds like you are allowed to see it during previews, which to your point, a lot of things could actually change after they see it in front of an audience not working or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you have to. Because obviously, I'm sure these professionals are working theater people, but if you're working on something, then you're not paying attention to the drama that's happening behind the latest musical, and you might have no idea what you're walking into, and it might totally change. Like when we saw Smash, I was not gonna lie, very unexcited because I didn't really care for the TV show, and I was like, this is gonna be lame, and then I loved it.
Yeah.
So you never know what you're going to walk into if it can be something transformative or if it can be something like oh, that was just really good and really enjoyable, like Boop. Like it there's so much that goes into the process, I guess, of seeing theater, and as a theater professional, you really sort of work through that process, right? Like we do things before we go see shows or after we see
Yeah.
shows because we love this business and because we work in this business, and we want to know everything we can and stay in touch and all of that kind of stuff. But I don't know, it just seems very, very short to me to say these two musicals open on April 27th, boom, 4 days later, are they nominated?
Right. Right. Yep. And you know what? Sometimes I don't know how they combat the bias or those preconceived judgments you have about stuff, because like you're saying, you had seen the TV show that Smash was based off of. I had not. So people are going in, especially with these musicals nowadays that have kind of an established audience from something previous. the nominating committee members might be going in with varying degrees of bias or judgment or like preconceived stuff going on already before they see this. And if they only have this limited window, I don't know if some of that is also playing a part in their critiques of it as well.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
This is exciting.
So we'll talk more about the Tony Awards, but there you go. That's sort of our limited the Tony Awards are coming adventure.
Whew. Well, Tony Awards are coming. On Broadway, currently, there's a lot opening, as we talked about last time. And there's some very high-profile people coming on the scene. One of which we've been reading about a little is producer Scott Rudin, who is threatening to return to Broadway. What do we think about this, Jeff?
So Scott Rudin, obviously very successful Broadway producer and Hollywood. I mean, he was the lead producer on The Social Network, and he has obviously a lot of money. I don't want to say he's a Harvey Weinstein contemporary, and he's just that old school, like, rude, temper tantrum throwing, not fun to work for kind of guy. And a lot of his assistants and a lot of people who work in his office came out, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
And just said, this guy's a no-no. Like, he's not...
Allegedly.
Not, right. Well, accused him of many things, right? But,
yes.
I mean, there was a story about, I think it was, like, back in 2012, where they couldn't get him a seat on a flight that he wanted to get on, and he threw an absolute fit, smashed an Apple computer monitor, like, on one of his assistant's hands. Like,
oh my God.
This over-the-top cartoon version of a human being. And I just don't get why. And listen, he's a producer, so you're not interacting with him. The public is not interacting with him. We just know from the allegations and the stories of the people that work with him. But it's just so frustrating because, this guy literally can't... there were times where Scott Rudin had 4 shows on Broadway and was just raking in money, and he's treating the people he works with poorly, and what are you going to do? Like, it's just bad. It's a toxic culture, and it's a bad look. He actually, if you remember, produced what's-his-face's first... what's-his-face? Denzel Washington, one of the big stars on Broadway right now, who is a film actor, remember, not a stage actor. Scott Rudin produced one of his Broadway shows.
I think he was connected to A Doll's House Part 2 that we saw as well.
He was in the talkback, right? And then he's also one of the lead producers on Book of Mormon. And, he's just...
Like, basically, he was one of those people that I had... you and I were talking. I recently went to a conference for my day job. And we're talking about... One of the sessions was about building out your support team and like the 5 archetypes of people you need to have on your team. And one of them was the sponsor, the promoter. So, and someone who like, if this person says your name, things happen for you. And it was so funny reading, when we were at A Doll's House Part 2, this is, I think, right before COVID. It was so funny reading a little bit about the playwright, because I think it's Lucas
Hnath.
Yes. I was like, Lucas with a last name I won't pronounce right. How that came to me so quickly with no internet was great. But it was funny to see like he had just written it and like it didn't go through like, a 10-year process of like workshopping and drafts, but somehow Scott Rudin had heard and seen it done very recently and was like lit gasoline on it and was like brought it to Broadway right away. So it's like amazing how...
And it was brilliant. It was well done. You know what I mean? It was really, really good.
But it's interesting because if he didn't get involved in that project, it probably would not have shot to Broadway. So in certain regards, like I guess he's probably... Like some people probably are like, this guy did amazing things for me.
For sure. And like Harvey Weinstein, same thing. He did some amazing work artistically, but
yes.
you are we okay with the way these people are treating their people? You know, like, is that okay? And I guess the big question is, how do we deal with it? How do we? The market is too big to say, oh, everybody boycott anything they work on. You know, like, that's not going to work.
Right.
So how do we deal with and work with, or you know, ostracize and get rid of these people who are just toxic in what they do? I think we should keep that drama on the stage.
Yeah, the toxic people just keep coming back. But you know what?
Yeah, they gotta go.
One thing you just mentioned was that he was had produced Denzel Washington previously on Broadway, and you, funnily enough, just pointed out that he's a film actor and not a stage actor. And I just heard him do an interview for Othello, in which he corrected the interviewer and said, "No, no, no, I am a stage actor first, who has done some movies."
Yeah.
So I think
your acting styles tell me different, buddy.
he did talk about how I love people who are versatile like that, though. I think he was obviously trained and grew up in the theater, and then just got a lot more breaks and opportunities in film, I imagine. But it was interesting to hear him. Obviously, him and Denzel Washington and Jake Gyllenhaal are in Othello right now on Broadway, which is raking in the money because of the star quality.
Yeah, tickets are $900.
I do not want to go for 900. What I saw for...
If there's an advertiser who wants to pay for our tickets to Othello,
yes,
we will deliver a full review.
Full review. I can talk to you for as long as you want if I'm getting a free ticket to that.
Correct. Private review.
But it was funny that in this interview I saw with Denzel, he was like, yeah, you know, like, film is such a cinematographer's wheelhouse. It's not really about the actor, because he was like, you could be giving the performance of your lifetime, but the shot could be somewhere totally different, you know? And in theater, every moment is captured, you know? So it's interesting to see him now on the campaign trail and the promotion trail for theater. But George Clooney, also huge film star and celebrity who is on Broadway right now.
Yeah, but he's basically just doing the film he did on stage.
Right.
Like,
this is another thing that had its appeal and audience already, and we've now got this. Good night, good luck. But those tickets are also going for close to $1,000, and I'm loving that someone will pay that much. But I'm also it's driving up, like, we've had some of the craziest days totals for box office sales, but who can afford an $1,000 ticket? Like, this is not accessible. Yeah, Scott Rudin. Not super accessible, but this is what happens when we bring, you know, uber celebrities to Broadway, I guess. Everything.
Well, yeah, because they get paid tens of thousands of dollars a week, you know? I mean, Bette Midler was famously paid $50,000 a week for her work in Hello, Dolly. And I imagine that Denzel and Jake Gyllenhaal and Kieran Culkin and Bob Odenkirk and all these people who are now, you know, doing George Clooney, I imagine that they're either similar or slightly less, because I feel like Bette is more of an icon already on Broadway, you know? And so she can probably command that because, listen, she is a queen. But and maybe, I don't know, maybe Denzel is getting paid $50,000 a week, or maybe he's getting a piece of the ticket sales or something. I don't know. But that's, you know, what's needed to pay those big numbers.
Well, there you have it, folks.
Moving on to future things, to step away from the current season for a second, Dirty Little Secret is getting an industry presentation with Carrie Butler, Alex Newell, and Marty Lauder. This one was interesting. Have you heard of this one, Dakota?
No. I know these people.
So, book by Jonathan Sheffer and music and lyrics by Sheffer and Bruce Roberts. The musical follows a true story of a group of gay Harvard students at the dawn of the Jazz Age.
Huh.
The young men host wild parties at the university until a secret court formed by the school exposes and expels the group, ruining their lives while shielding the institution and its court from discovery. In 2002, a Harvard journalism student uncovered the story after it was kept a secret for 80 years.
Wow, this is really an interesting premise. I like this.
Your ears perked up when I said jazz age, I know.
Well, it's so interesting, though, that
that means the music is going to be
the
fun.
music is definitely going to be fun. And I've noticed that a lot of musicals are hearkening back to recreating this 30s, 40s, 50s music style. Like Gatsby and Smash and Boop. Like trying to give you that golden age time period again. But this is really cool that it's like a story that they just uncovered, though, that was like hidden. That's really cool.
Yeah, and I think to your point about the sounds, I don't think modern musical theater has found a sound yet. You know what I mean? Like in the 90s and early 2000s, we kind of had like a pop rock, like, you know, with Rent and Next to Normal and things like that. But I don't know that we found a sound yet for these times in Broadway. And so it's interesting that you say that like we're hearkening back to like other time periods and things. So yeah, interesting. Maybe it's like fashion. It's just going to all start repeating again.
That seems to be the trend.
I'm going to buy myself a pair of Jenko jeans. Live like it's 1999.
Best time ever. Went to a Y2K party the other day and I knew every song.
There you go.
Nowadays, I know no songs. Love that for us.
Well,
I'm sure we won't hear about this again for at least 5 years. Because it'll be going into the workshop stages of life.
Yeah.
But maybe in 5 years we'll tell you it's coming to Broadway.
Maybe. You never know. Strange things happen, right?
Well, you just brought up Rent, and someone from Rent is back at the Nederlander Theater in a little musical called Redwood. Idina Menzel is back where her big break...
Never heard of her.
Her big break started, right? And I think that most people are going to this because it's a project that she's behind. The story is a little eat, pray, love, and a little nature-loving tree hugging. But something, I hope I get to see it, but I'm not like, it's so hard to prioritize in this short window of time the things that are coming out to see before the Tonys happen.
Yeah.
I was reading up a little bit about kind of what sets this apart is that it's, okay, Redwoods, there's lots of projections used and lots of interesting choreography used to kind of simulate...
Because it takes place in the trees,
climbing these redwoods in California. Yeah, most of this storyline, I think, takes place with her climbing and finding herself and nature and all that. So I think that the way that they... Redwood has commissioned a dance company called Bandaloop to kind of get you simulated and stimulated into being outdoors and the heights that you're experiencing, like physically and emotionally. So I think this was a good choice to kind of visually get people going. And this choreography is called vertical choreography. Bandaloop works doing sites... Vertical choreography. A site-specific airborne form of contemporary dance. Using regular climbing equipment, Bandaloop's dancers turn vertical surfaces in architecture and in nature into their dance floor. So it's supposed to resemble ballet, but like in a zero gravity, just to kind of give you that illusion of like, you know, I guess in the 90s and 2000s we had Bye 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 in sync, you know, like playing around with tricks of to make you think things are happening. So there's like pulleys and harnesses and all this fun stuff. And, you know, Idina is up there doing a lot of this. But I think this is pretty cool. I hope that I get to see it. I'm sure the projections also help you to kind of feel like you're above ground a bit. But yeah, I don't know that I would have the guts to do any of these stunts live.
Well, you're singing and stuff while you're doing them. I think that's the hard
Yeah,
part, right?
that seems a little crazy to me. So it seems very acrobatic. And the cast of this show must really be talented and insane in the membrane. But the director is Tina Landau, so she always has like some fun things up her sleeve like this. So I shouldn't really be surprised. But yeah, it seems like the whole time there's some tree climbing happening. So I'm sure there's a lot of wonderfulness happening and a lot of extra people on the crew backstage who are well versed in all of this rigging because God knows it wouldn't be me in charge.
You know, I don't know if I've told you this, but I am a trained belay person on our climbing wall and stuff at camp, and I'm just curious.
Get the hell out of here.
Just humble brag. I am. I'm just interested, like how much of that is like auto belay and manual belay, and also with rigging. You know, like what's the because Redwood has also been discussed a lot for the screens, giant screens showing off this beautiful scenery. I'd just be curious to know how much of that is belay manual and auto belay and how that works in terms of the vertical choreography.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get there soon. Hopefully before it closes. I'll get back to you.
I am very interested to see what happens in the Best Actress category this year because you've got some heavyweights, right? You've got Megan Hilty, you've got
Oh yes.
Idina Menzel, you've got Audra, you've got Nicole, you've got so many people. And then also some new ones, like this girl Helen from Maybe Happy Ending is supposed to be absolutely amazing. And Jen Simard from Death Becomes Her. So I'm very interested to see what happens with the Best Actress category this year.
No, Best Actress category is gonna be saturated. And presumably one of these people is also gonna get a hard snub.
Right, for sure.
Because you can only pick 5.
Nicole.
So
What?
this well
Did you hear that?
I'd be
Someone say something?
I'd be okay with I'd be okay with someone who's not a Broadway actor maybe not getting the nom, but also didn't say that.
Interesting things.
Yeah.
So
I'm just saying.
That's just coming previewing soon.
Teasers.
Titanique is closing.
Yeah, we were just talking about some things that are unexpectedly good or surprise us. And like when we first heard about this, I feel like it was during COVID that this was all being like formulated. And I was like, really? Like this is going to be like the dumbest spoof ever. It is never going to go anywhere. And I have seen it, you have seen it, and we have laughed our asses off for the entire time.
It's so Titanique.
It is fantastic.
It just works so well. The premise behind it is that Celine Dion is giving you a tour of the Titanic Museum and telling you the story of Titanic as you go. And it is just so well done, and the performances are stellar, and it just works on so many levels. And now there's a bunch of there's a touring production and there's international productions, and it's just one of those shows that is small but mighty and so much fun, and it's sad to see it go.
I hope that a bunch of local theaters do it because it was so much comedy, so much like fun songs that everybody sings along with, and also seems like you could do it on like a tiny budget and not with a lot of
tiny budget. But my concern would be
stuff.
The Celine Dion impersonator.
Right,
that's not easy.
You need to find like a powerhouse, really
She's
tour de force
amazing.
kind of gal, because she does some improv in the middle of it. She has obviously a great voice, and the accent and everything. So, but it lasted a lot longer than we anticipated, and
true, almost 3 years.
Yeah.
True. And it's closing June 15th. So if you have time, rush to
go see it.
And see it. So Dakota, I have something to tell you.
All right.
Congratulations.
What?
On
what?
I'll let you break what we're talking about next.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. I, interestingly enough, came across this article in the Times that talked about going to see a friend's show, thinking it was terrible, and then what do I say to said friend after the show is over? And I was like, wow, if we're writing a Times article about this, this must be something that many
It's a
folks
slow news week.
slow news week, yes, and something that many folks grapple with, right? Like I have taken that. I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on this because I definitely back in the day was the person that people came to and was like, "What did you think? How did it go?" Because they knew I would like give real feedback. And I remember going to a show at my alma mater with some kid at my high school, and with some kids that I had worked with at the Sandbox local theater, and they were like, "Did you like it?" And I was like, "No," and I was like, "Oh, that's." I was like,
No.
"No, I didn't," and I'm like, "Why that stupid move?" Like, I do try to find something about the production that I really enjoyed or a character that I really liked or something to try to just focus on that instead of saying like the whole thing was crap because I don't think that's productive or helpful at all.
Agreed.
What do you think?
I work a lot in children's theater, and I think that what I've learned over the years is there is always something for me to enjoy in a performance, even if it's the costumes or a specific
Yeah.
performer or the joy of the amateurish of like watching people learn and grow in the craft of theater. So I always have something to compliment. I will never tell anyone to their face that I did not enjoy something, just because I think that's rude. Like I don't think you need to tell people that you didn't enjoy something. And if someone comes to me after the fact and seeks out like critical advice, I'll give it to them. But I'm never going to say that something was bad or that I didn't enjoy something, because I love theater and I'll always find something to enjoy. And
Yeah.
I think that knowing the process of putting on a show and how much work that is and what goes into it emotionally and physically, I always say congratulations to the cast or my friend or whoever, because it's work. Putting a show on is work. And so I will always congratulate them. And typically I like my friends, I
Yeah.
loved you in A Few Good Men. We talked about some of the
Oh,
other
thank
things
you.
about A Few Good Men, but I think that there's always something to love, and I am one who will not tell people unless they seek it out, what they can do better or what can be different next time or whatever. Just because I think that theater is about joy and fun, and if you're having fun and being joyous putting on something that is, not my favorite, who am I to tell you that? Like live your life, enjoy yourself.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with. I think that's the joy of theater. Everyone can derive some sort of joy from it, and if you're loving yourself putting on something that I think is less than good, great, keep it up. Live your truth. I'm not here to knock you down.
No, I think as I've gotten older and as I've started being an educator more and seeing it more from that perspective and doing more behind the scenes and directing, and of course working with you more, like as you've added to your repertoire of work, I think you're completely right. You start to see things from different angles than just being a performer or just your own kind of like narrow view. And I think the more theater you consume too, you also have a different perspective of like, oh, that's why the director chose to do it this way or something.
Right, right.
But especially when we're dealing with, like, I think since COVID too, I think having it taken away from me every time I go see a show, unless it's really like dreadful, I find that there are really moments where I tear up or something pulls at my heartstrings a little more. And I think when I just saw Boop the other day, it was like, I was so proud. She had like a big moment on stage and it was her debut.
Right.
And I was just like, you feel like that simpatico and you're like, oh, like you're saying, maybe like the entire thing, it didn't wow you or you didn't love certain things, but there are those moments that really still you can feel like their energy
Right.
and their joy. And I think there is, like you said, always something to enjoy
Yeah.
about what we're seeing. So I love that article happened.
Moral of the story, don't be rude when you are talking about your niece or nephew's middle school or high school performance.
Yeah.
Just find something nice to say.
Yeah. Be
Or
nice
find
to them.
something that you enjoy. And I think, too, it's like that whole conference mentality, right? Like, you don't always want to go to a professional conference in whatever job you do.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go in with the mentality of, I'm going to take something away from
Right.
this, you're gonna have a better time.
Right.
And I think that that's what I've learned the same about theater. I will find something to take away from this, even if it's a cool choreo move that I can use in a future show, or a cool costume, or
Yeah.
something. I just feel like it is worth going in with an open mind. It's how I enjoyed the Into the Woods film. I went in with an open mind, and I found things that I liked and things that I did not care for as much. But I feel like I really enjoyed that film because I was able to sort of, separate the theater snob, my inner theater snob, and just the reality of what a movie musical is and all of that. So
I hope
it's worth it. Find something you love.
that our theater snobs audience always gleans some learning from what we talk about, and
Maybe.
also just loves listening to us shoot the crap, right? So
Yeah.
about the things we
And
love.
on that note,
We love you.
oh man,
You're
love
perfect. Don't
You.
change.
Now change.
Bye.
Bye bye. The Theater Snobs podcast is part of Chill Bucket Productions. Find us on the web at www.chillbp.com.
And follow us on Instagram at Theater Snobs. That's theater, TRE, snobs.